Welcome back to Africa 54. Michael Jackson's teen daughter Paris is hospitalized after what's being described as possible suicide attempt. The King of Pop's ex-wife and Paris' mom, Debbie Rowe, says the 15-year-old was rushed to the hospital with cuts on her wrist. Rowe says Jackson has a lot going on lately, including a major lawsuit. Paris recently sent out some troubling tweets. She wrote, "Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far, and now it looks as though they are here to stay." A line from a Beatles song she owns the rights to. Now let's go over to Africa 54's Ndimyake Mwakalyelye with today's cover story. Ndimi.
Well, thank you, Vincent. An estimated 80 million people in Africa living with a disability, from long-term physical and mental issues to learning or sensory impairments such as blindness and deafness. 95% of the 1,600 students who graduate each year from Washington's Gallaudet University are deaf or hearing impaired. Our Paul Cisco spoke with one from Nigeria who's now a dean at this one-of-a-kind university.
Gallaudet's campus and student body is similar to many in the United States and elsewhere, except for the fact that it is the world's only liberal arts university for the hearing impaired. Dr. Isaac Agbula is a native of Nigeria who graduated from Gallaudet in 1983. Today, he is the dean of the university's College of Liberal Arts. Agbula says on the African continent, opportunities for the disabled are improving, particularly in Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa.
The countries with a good number of educated deaf people who are able to fight for those equal rights.
You have a chance to speak to young people that are disabled or deaf on the continent. What kind of words of encouragement might you have for them?
In short, I would say that your future is in your hands. You need to create alliances with society, with government to fight for your rights, but it starts always with you. You may never fully depend on others to do for you what you must do. As I said, in those countries where opportunity has advanced, it's advanced because deaf people fought for it. And they fought for it with their allies. But the leaders of that fight has to be the deaf community themselves.
Like Dr. Agbula, Judith Heumann is a lifelong civil rights advocate and leader in the disability community. She says at least 15% of the world's population has some sort of disability.
People frequently think about disability as something you can see, but people who have depression, people who have diabetes, people who have epilepsy, other types, cancer, etc., they have disabilities. And according to the U.S. law, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, these people are covered, including people with HIV/AIDS.
Gallaudet's Dr. Agbula and the U.S. State Department's Judith Heumann agree.
The greatest disability is not being deaf nor blind. The greatest disability is the attitude of society towards those that have disability.
Working collaboratively, broadening the community of people with disabilities, helping people become empowered, people with disabilities and family members beginning to demand greater equality within their countries. I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do around the world.
Paul Cisco, VOA News.
Now, to discuss this further, we are joined by Thomas Ong'olo of the Secretariat of the African Decade of Persons with Disabilities, a technical agency established to implement the African Union's Plan of Action for Persons with Disabilities and the UN Convention on the Rights for Persons with Disabilities in Africa. So thank you so much, Mr. Ong'olo, for joining us.
Thank you.
So picking up from the package we just ran, very interesting points raised by the speakers in that particular package. What can you tell us about what your organization is doing to promote and encourage avenues of learning and employment for people with disabilities, say whether you're deaf, blind, or physically impaired?
Thank you, Ndimyake. I think with us at the Secretariat of the African Decade has recognized that across Africa, there are a couple of challenges that face persons with disability, and the AU Continental Plan of Action following the declaration of the African Decade did put focus on 3 elements. And one, empowerment of persons with disability, promotion of equality, and most of all, creating equalization of opportunity for persons with disability in Africa. As an organization, we've been working with a couple of governments across Africa, providing technical assistance, but with the sole aim of providing inclusive planning so that persons with disability can be included in the national plan. So if you look across Africa, a couple of countries have taken that initiative. The government of Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, and Namibia, just to mention a few, have developed a disability mainstreaming strategy as part of their planning processes. And this is just but one of the many activities that we are doing. Similarly, we have also recognized that the roles of the disability sector, the disability advocates, promoting and working with the business sector, with the public sector, so that employers are trained on how to include persons with disability. Because sometimes it's the ignorance. Majority of the businesses may not include persons with disability, not just because it's not possible, but they don't know. And that's what we see across Africa. And that's some of the technical support that we are providing both to the South African government, which have now increased its public employment to just over 1%, which is still...
Now, Mr. Ong'olo, let me just jump in there quickly. We only have a limited time left, but I do want to expound, or would like you to expound on the point about ignorance, which leads to a lot of discrimination, and what Dr. Ong'olo said in the piece, that's the biggest disability facing people with disabilities, is the discrimination.
Surely, yes, discrimination because of our culture, discrimination because people don't know. And us, as part of the Secretariat of the African Decade, have taken the strategic approach to work both with the media, work with the civil rights organizations to take a twin-track approach by making sure that the youth, women, become self-advocates, but also working with other progressive disability rights organization or human rights organization to see that equality are quite important.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ong'olo. Really appreciate your insights. Thomas Ong'olo is the Program Director of the Secretariat of the African Decade of Persons with Disabilities, and he joined us from Pretoria, South Africa via Skype.